Well, we pretty well covered the theater support you're on, but there's a couple other types of theaters I would like to look at, and we'll look at both of them in this video today. The first one is the drive-in theaters. On the south end of town, you had the Marysville Drive-In Theater, which was open September 1st, 1950. And they ran this little blurb in the newspaper: Drive-In Theater opens tonight in Marysville. The gates of the Marysville Drive-In Theater, the Blue Waters District's newest outdoor showplace, will be open for the first time at 6:30 p.m. today. And it goes on to tell about what was showing that night. But you can also see it here, which is the first ad they put in the newspaper for the theater. The features were the Bluegrass of Kentucky and the Sundowners. And here's a couple actors you might remember back in the day: Robert Preston, Chill Wills, Robert Sterling, John Barrymore Jr. Ah yes, those were the days. Children under 12 years of age admitted free bottle warming services for babies, new children's playground, and new refreshment building. I've never been able to find a good photograph of either the theaters, Port Huron or Marysville. But I do have this one. It looks like they're picketing because it was a non-union theater. And the only other photograph I have is actually when it was being torn down. Marysville bids farewell to big screen. Drive-in scrap for mall. Co-owner Michael P. Law said the first phase of the mall should be completed by fall or winter. Plans call for an 18,000-foot structure with 12 stores. And here's the same photograph in color. The photograph was taken in April of 1988. So it had a pretty good run. And today, well, you can see where that drive-in used to be and where that strip mall is today. The other drive-in theater was on the north end of town on Lakeshore Road. And there's not too much on this theater as far as when it opened and when it closed. But obviously, according to this newspaper advertisements for movie theaters, you can see that it was already there when the Marysville Theater opened up. And according to this advertisement, it says, the one and only drive-in theater. And just in case you might forget, they put the address right on the front of the theater. 5737 Lakeshore Road. Here's a little better photograph of the theater. In this photograph, you can see that the windows don't have any shutters, but in this photograph, they do. The drive-in was also used for the Faith Lutheran Church to have outdoor services during the summer months of July and August. Come as you are. Like I said, I don't know when this drive-in opened or when it closed, but I know it did open before the Marysville Drive-In, and it did close before the Marysville Drive-In. In this satellite view of the drive-in, you can see the drive-in quite clearly, and right in the middle, all by itself, is a refreshment stand. In the front was the screen, of course, and as we scroll up here, right next to the drive-in, you can see, well, if we zoom in here, I believe that is the putt-putt course, which was a miniature golf course. Today, 5737 Lakeshore Road looks like pretty much an empty field. Who knew there was once a drive-in here? The last type of theater we want to look at that was in Port Huron is the X-rated theater, or perhaps I should say the XXX-rated theater. The X-rated theater started right here at Port Huron, and well, actually Fort Gratiot if you want to be technical, just off of 24th and North River Road. When Google took this photograph, it looked like the building was unoccupied, and according to the signage, it says that they were now leasing. But this building wasn't built to be an X-rated theater. It was built to be a clothing store. Robert Hall clothing, to be exact. Here you see their grand opening ad, including a map to tell you exactly where it was at. Here we have a little better picture of the store. It opened in March of 1970. But about 5 years later, they closed down there and they opened up in this location, the Pine Grove Plaza, at the north end of the strip mall. They took over the old Zodi store that was there and renamed their store Robert Hall Village, a much larger store than they had at the previous location. But a couple years later, they went out of business. Robert Hall store closes, 100 employees jobless. Before we get back to our original location and the X-rated theater, there was a couple other stores that went in this building. One was the Yankee department store that you see here, and the other one was a 3D department store, which you see here. The X-rated theater actually got a foothold in Port Huron with a bookstore by the name of Satan's Bookstore, which was located on Military Street. It was just next to the Ravens Coffee House. Between that and that white building on the right, the small building in the center, that's where the Satan's Bookstore was. And here we have a photograph of it. This was the original location of the bookstore, and there was a fire. I'm not sure if they moved because of the fire or because of what they were selling, and the landlord just wanted them out of there. But anyway, they moved into that first Robert Hall store that we looked at. Needless to say, the folks in Port Huron wasn't too happy about this adult bookstore in the north end of town. It says this: discontent among township residents have been growing ever since Enix announced plans to move his adult bookstore, Satan Bookstore, from 936 Military Street, Port Huron, to the former Robert Hall building at 24th Avenue and North River Road. Now that the store is open, residents have moved from discontent to anger. Area residents fear pornography's growth. And rightly so, because not only did the bookstore survive, it expanded into movies. It became a movie theater that also included a bookstore, Cinema Blue. There was a lot of anger about this theater opening up in their neighborhood, but there was also a lot of curiosity. And that curiosity was probably satisfied by this article that was in the Times Herald. A reporter actually went into the Cinema Blue and told people what it was like. You can read it for yourselves, but I'll highlight a couple things that the reporter said. Cinema Blue offers true blue, hard porno. The movies, magazines, and books may melt the eyes of the unprepared. Step right into the bookstore. The bookstore seems to cater to those with low reading levels but good eyes. The walls are lined with magazines which are more like full-color pictorial essays. Readers may be lured to paperback selections at the center of the room. Management doesn't want readers to browse too long, however. A sign warns, 10 minutes reading limit. Buy, don't browse is a message. Customers pay at the checkout counter where a polite, pleasant woman takes the money. Customers also buy movie tickets there, and many can't help but check out what's on display at the counter. For lack of better phrase, accessories and gadgets best describe what's on sale. Moving right along to the game room. The game room isn't really pornographic, unless you count the artistic nude silhouettes on the wall. Pool tables and pinball machines fill the room. The peep show section consists of a dozen or so individual rooms about the size of a small dressing room. In each is a mini video system, a small television screen. Pay a quarter, close the door, and take a peek. The main attraction at Cinema Blue, of course, is the films. 2 theaters called Red and Blue offer double features for $6. The movies aren't X-rated. They're XXX-rated, and well, they should. Finally, one is left with the impression that Cinema Blue is trying to be respectable. The employees are courteous and unobtrusive. Popcorn, candy, and soft drinks are available before and during the shows. It's almost like an old neighborhood movie house. Almost. Cinema Blue started up in the 70s and probably was there until about 1989, and then they changed their name from Cinema Blue to Deja Vu. Fort Gratiot residents hadn't given up about trying to stop that theater. Men's group aims righteous anger at Deja Vu. If a men's church group has its way at 5 p.m. Friday, there will be a long picket line outside Deja Vu. And there was. My son and I were part of that picket line. It was pretty amusing to see men pulling their cars in and all of a sudden seeing us as we started to converge on them and just driving off. I know we hurt their business, but I know we didn't stop them as well. The man behind this X-rated theater was a fellow by the name of Harry Monet. He had a string of adult theaters, peep shows, new dance bars, and publishing in Michigan, and he was making about $1 million a year. Perhaps Harry's now standing on the corner selling pencils, because in 2002 it looks like they closed down, not because of the pickets, but because of technology. The internet ruined the X-rated theater business. Men could watch pornography right in their home on their computer or on the TV. Why would they want to go to a theater? And so technology did what pickets couldn't. It closed the Deja Vu theater. There are still a few X-rated movie theaters in the country, but for the most part they're gone. And good riddance. I would have preferred not even to show an X-rated theater in our videos, but it's part of our history, and so I was obligated to do that. But when I think of the old theaters at Port Huron, I don't think of the X-rated Cinema Blue. I think of theaters like the Desmond Theater, the Riviera Theater, the Family Theater, the Majestic Theater, and the Ritz Theater. On are the advertisements in the Time Herald of all the theaters and the shows that they played, the theaters that so many of us were familiar with. Today has been replaced with advertisements like these. The theaters downtown have been replaced by multiplex theaters, multiple screens, showing more movies in one theater than all the theaters in town back then would show. 8 or 10 screens, 12 screens, whatever it might be. Lots of choices today. The main multiplex theaters being the Kraft 8 and also the Birchwood Cinemas. But the newest one doesn't show up on here, and that's the Sperry's Movie House. They don't have an awful lot of signage like so many theaters today, but they do have this at the top of the building, and then they have this underneath the awning. And look at the seating inside. Wow, how luxurious. Got everything for room to put your cups in, to just kicking out and relaxing, putting your legs out. Unbelievable. It's a long cry from the old Majestic Theater, where they had hardback seats. And in some cases, no backs at all on the very top floor of the Majestic Theater. I do think the theaters back then, from the 1930s to maybe the 1950s, had a much better reward program than they have now. You could get a complete set of dishes for your dining room by attending enough shows at the theater. Today, well, not so much. Here's your reward program today. Our movie credits program is your ticket to free upsizing on popcorn and soda, not to mention rewards for your birthday and membership anniversary. Well, that's something anyway. But I'd rather have the dishes. So what do you think Mr. Sperry would have thought about his department store being turned into a movie theater? Well, I think he would have been sad the fact that a department store didn't carry his name anymore. But I don't think he would have wanted to have the building fall in disrepair like it was before they remodeled it, and being torn down eventually. I think he'd be very happy to have his name still in the building that he built. Sperry's Movie House. Well, this finishes our little series on the theaters of Port Huron. I hope you enjoyed them. I know I did.